Hi, I'm Ari Nessel, founder of the Pollination Project. The Pollination Project was founded to fill a void in philanthropy around small, grassroots changemakers being resourced to effectuate the change that they're uniquely capable of manifesting in the world. The grounding principle of the Pollination Project is that we want to grow what we call compassion consciousness. Compassion consciousness is different from sympathy and from empathy. Sympathy says, I see your pain. Empathy says, I feel your pain. Compassion says, I want to relieve your pain. So this consciousness is about growing that part of us that wants to relieve the pain of others, mostly based on the reality that your pain is deeply related to my own. And as if I'm able to bring more well-being into the world and to others, in some ways that ripples out, and I benefit from that as well. And that we are in some way in our capacities for joy and for suffering. So much of philanthropy has been institutionalized, where we've relied on systems and groups as opposed to people and heart. The Pollination Project seeks to broaden philanthropy's approach to co-creating a more compassionate world. And we do that by specifically injecting resources into the places and people, more importantly, that are closest to the harms that are looking to be resolved or attended to in the world. So we do that primarily through small grants and through building networks of relationships among our grantees. When we began, we had this idea of giving $1,000 a day directly to the individual change makers. That is very different from any other modality or approach of any foundation that we're aware of in the world. And in the process, we've funded over 3,000 grantees and given almost 4,000 grants. The Pollination Project's approach is to think about multiple forms of capital. We have financial capital, we have community capital, we have knowledge capital, we have our time, we have our community. How do we support grantees so they utilize the funds and utilize their network to expand volunteerism among people they're in relationship with? Creating an ecosystem of grantees all around the world, in fact, over 100 countries. Our approach is very much like something called drip irrigation. In drip irrigation, you give the plant the exact amount of water it needs at the right depth. You don't overload it with water. When you give too much water to a plant, its roots don't go very deep because it doesn't need the water coming from the ground. It becomes dependent on the irrigation. With drip irrigation, it gives it just as much as it needs until it can develop strong enough and deep enough roots where it sustains itself on its own. So our approach is to be precise in how much we give, time it at the right time in people's evolution of their heartivism and their engagement in the world, and to build a network around them that keeps that water flowing in a non-financial way. Hardevism is like an activism that is motivated by a process as opposed to an outcome. It is an approach to activism that acknowledges that we are in this together, that people and systems are evolving, that they're not static. When I first got engaged in activism, my calling to be of service to animals was actually causing a steeper divide between me and other humans. I got exhausted and it was depleting. And so I needed a new approach for how I engage in the world to transform the world. And it became obvious to me that if I want to transform the world, I need to first transform myself. As I began to see the world with new eyes, people became more receptive to what I had to share. If I want the world to be more loving and kind, then the process of which I show up and I do my activism has to be loving and kind. That will have a ripple in affecting more people. And over time, the systems of which we seek to transform and change, they will be transformed as well. Abraham Lincoln had this beautiful quote that I think embodies one important portion of heartivism. He said that, "Am I not destroying my enemies when I make them my friends?" In heartivism, we seek to break down that barrier that sees someone as other and self. into seeing a cohesive force that we're in this together.